Hi, this is Sheila with Stamping Wishes, and welcome to my studio today. So yeah, I have been not recording for probably about a month. Just real quickly, it's been super busy in my life, and had a couple of surgeries and had to use weekends to take it easy and stuff. So anyway, I am back, and this, because of the virus that's going around, I've taken my classes and we're doing online type stuff, and they'll come and pick up from my porch their packages so that they can follow along with this video and make their own projects at home until we're back into a less compromised position with the virus that we have right now. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so today we're making the slider cards, and this is one that I've made with making my own background here. This is one I made with using some of our paper, and this is one that was given to me a couple of years ago, I believe it was, from Dawn for my birthday. So Dawn, again, Dawn Griffith, thank you. She's my upline, and just a beautiful little card and a fun card. It's quick and easy. Same thing with these, the way they measure, and you'll notice that I have different designs in here like I did for here, this one. And then I came along with this one and I made it a little sheep, a little bit more happy friend, have a wonderful Easter, and all of those. So let's go ahead and get started on what you're going to need. To make this card that we're making today, you're going to be using the Balmy Blue, and you'll need one cut at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And all my measurements will be on my film, so you don't need to worry. And my class members and club members, they're going to get a PDF that gives them instructions as well. The other piece of Balmy Blue that we need is 2 7/8 by 3 5/8. Then for our Whisper White, we need another 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then we need one that is 2 3/4 by 3 1/2, and it's the one that will go in front of this one, which is our pull-up piece of your card. Okay, and then we have, this is our inside pull-up piece, and this one's cut at 2 7/8 by 4 3/4. Okay, so let's set these pieces aside for right now. We don't need them at this moment, but we are going to prepare. I went ahead and cut these ahead because we're going to be cutting on these, and I wanted to be sure that that was the part that that we spent more time on the video with. All right, so lining your 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece, the Balmy Blue, up, we want to move it over to or slide it over to the 3 1/2 inch. So when we go here to 3 1/2 inch, that gives the border that we're going to do our first cut on. Now coming up here, and I'm hoping I've got all of this, I'm going to try and bring it down into it. We want to line this little notch here with the 3/4 inch, which is right there. So we're going to put it down and make sure your pieces are even here, and it's still even. I didn't move it, and we're going to bring that down to your 4 3/4. So let's come on down here to 4 3/4. Okay, and then to cut the other side, you don't want to turn it around, you want to flip it. So we're going to flip it again, line it up at the 3 1/2 inch side, start at your 3/4 inch, and I find it sometimes a little bit easier before I lay it down to line it up at that 3 1/4, since I'm looking at it at an angle for this filming. And then I'm going to bring it down to my 4 3/4. Okay, so after we've done that, then we're going to bring it over, and it doesn't matter which way you do this, but I need to line it up at 4 3/4. And if you notice, if you can look at this line, we line up pretty well. Let me bring this over here. See our ends, and if you go a little bit over, like I may have just a little bit there, it's not a big deal. It's not. So anyway, line it up at 3 3/4. Now we'll go back to our 3/4 inch here, and that's where we're going to stop. And sometimes you can kind of feel it when you're coming across the cuts, and we're going to bring it this time to only at the 3 1/2, not okay. And I kind of felt it when it fell down, and so we'll kind of bump that up a little bit to make sure we got it, and we did. So what you get is your little open flap here like this. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'll go ahead and do the scoring on this, and then we're going to start our stamping, which includes our background stamping. Okay, but before I do this, this is going to be my bottom here, and this is going to be my top area. Okay, so what we need to do is punch us a 1/4 inch circle punch up here. This is, I'm sorry, 1.5 inch, and we're gonna I'm centering it between this line and this cut line there, and I'm going to bring it down not quite a half, probably more like a 1/4 inch, and we'll make this where our top is going to pull out. So lining this up at the bottom, we want to line it up at the 1.5 inch score, our 1.5 inch line. Get your blade completely out of the way. We don't want to be making a mistake in doing any cutting here. Then, just like we did with when we cut, we're going to be going between our 3/4 inch and our 3.5 inch to do our scoring. Okay, so you want to do it like so. Then you're going to slide this to the 3 inch, and you're again going to go from cut line to cut line, which is your 3.25 to 3.5. And then we're going to bring it up to the 4 3/4, which will be our last scoring. And again, let's bring it over here to the 3/4 to 3.5. Okay. And so now we have our score line. So we don't need the cutter anymore. Let's go ahead and put that aside. All right, so this first one, you're going to do what's called a valley fold because you're folding towards you, okay? And then we're going to do next will be our mountain fold, which folds away from you, and then a valley fold, which is to us. And so this is how it's going to slide up when all is being worked on, okay? So let's get out our balmy blue, and what I did was to take, let's talk about the stamp set I'm using. That would help, wouldn't it? Okay, so I'm using Welcome Easter, super cute one, because it's not just for Easter, it's for new ones coming into the world, for a baby gift. So there's some really cute ones here. So I can see a lot of things being used with this stamp set. And I did, what you see here is I use these post-it notes that are completely all posted. When you look here, there's not partial postage. It's sticky all the way across. And I stamp it, and then I cut them out like this because we're going to do a little bit of masking for the grass area and for the sky. So let's go ahead. We're going to be using this stamp and then our little leaf stamp here to make our border. So we're going to first go with our balmy blue, and it wouldn't matter if you stamped onto the edges and here, you know, and stuff. You just kind of want to keep a pattern going that starts off at one side like this, and you might twist it to the other so you get a different look. And along the way, you do want to leave enough room for a leaf here or there just to bring out the greens that we're using in the coloring process that we're going to be doing. Okay, so you just do this all the way around, and I'm going to speed this up while I finish this out. So as I was doing it, you noticed I had a little boo-boo there, but that's okay because the leaves and everything, it won't look that bad, okay? Now, one of the things I've tried to teach my club, and I hope that other people do this as well, so that the cleaning cloth that you use doesn't get really dirty. What you should be doing before you clean, and whether you're using even one of your cleaning pads with the cleaning solution in it, is stamp off as much as you can so that when you do wipe it off, then you're not getting so much ink, for especially in classes and stuff where we share a lot of the inking and our cleaning areas and stuff like that, you want to kind of keep that cloth as clean as you can, and especially if you need to do, for example, clean your hands from getting ink on it, you want that to be clear as well. All right, so now let's go ahead and get some Pear Pizzazz out, and we're going to bring in our little leaf here, and we're here. And so again, I'm going to speed this up during this process. All right, so we got our leaves done. Oh, we can do a few more up here. I kind of skipped over that area, didn't I? Okay, let's do one there, and one there, and the last one there, and maybe one here. Okay, so now we've got our leaves in there. Again, we're going to stamp the excess ink off, clean up our little stamp and put it aside. Okay, so now we can set this aside for a second as we start to do our Whisper White pieces that we're going to stamp on. So I'm going to set this aside for a moment here. And this is going to be our outer, which is our little bunny. And I did go ahead and set up my stamp apparatuses because I wanted to be sure that I got things if I needed to stamp them, that I'd be able to do that by having that available to me. Okay, so we're going to set up our little bunny here where we may have to rearrange it because I had actually taken him off last night, needing to do something else. So we'll see if he's lined up again. And I like to bring him up into the corner when I'm using, as you'll notice in a minute, I'm using each one of my plates for multiple items. And I'm going to want him probably about there, and I say him, it could be a little girl too, and probably by the time I get done with it, it'll look more like a little girl. But I'm going to bring her about right there, press down, and bring out my Memento Black. Okay, so again, I'm hoping I'm in the frame because unfortunately when you're filming, or at least the way I film, I can't see what I'm doing other than what's on the board here, so I hope I have it lined up correctly. Give it a good press, wait your 10-second rule so that everything, the ink transfers over to your cardstock. And I am using Whisper White, the thick cardstock, not the regular, but the thick cardstock. So you might want to do it for two reasons. One, the sturdiness of it, since it's a movement type card, and the other one because it colors better and doesn't bleed out as much. And what you can do, because of us coloring inside on the inside piece, it will show through the back, and a lot of people use this card, the back of it, to write their greeting. So what you may want to do is just go ahead and cut you an extra piece to put on the back and line it up with your other piece, and that way you'll get a solid white backing. And we may do that today. I didn't cut one out, but that's not a problem either. All right, so let's go ahead and clean the bunny off, and then we're going to go ahead and do the inside piece, which is the part that pulls up, and that's this piece here. So we're going to line this up. And one of the things you can do, if you like to see about where this is going to come out, this is going to be adhered right here at the bottom of this piece right there. So if you were to play around with it, if I hold it and push it at the same time, if you were to bring it up, let me just go ahead and bring it up and then I'll put it back there. If you were to bring this up, it's going to be setting right like so. So this is how much distance you have between what's going to slide up and what's inside there. So you can stamp up into this point, and that's why I've got these in the upper area, and you can do some of your little florals down behind that, or however you want it to look. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to point that out, and I'll show you something else when we get to the other that you might want to use a pencil for and put some little spots as to where things are going to be. Okay, so let's go ahead and put me that and get our memento out. And if you wanted to put, because I have the Happy Easter going to be on the inside piece, but if you wanted to do another Happy Easter on this one, you could do that as well. So just your preference of how you want your card to look when you finish with it. Okay, I have to flip it over. I evidently don't have this completely lined up where the other was. Instead of taking a chance, let's go ahead and clean these off and reposition them where we need them to be. Okay, let's go ahead and put that. That's what happens sometimes when you're doing duplicate cards like this, and you don't have them exactly lined up, because I did, like I said, I had used these pieces on something else and then tried to remember where I had it lined up at. So, and because I do want some of the flower up there, I'm going to bring this one down about here. Line this one about here. And let's see what it looks like. It looks like it's lined up good. Now my sweet friend, they're a little bit crooked, so that's what I'm going to be off screen for a second where I can line this up and see it myself. Okay, let's take a look at that. All right, looks like we've got it lined up nicely. I love my Stamparatus. I can't imagine stamping without it now. I know we used to use those Stampin' Majigs, which I still do if I use one of my old wood sets. But I much prefer that. Isn't that pretty? All right, so now we're going to clean this up. And we'll set this one aside for a second because we're going to hand stamp the next pieces that go with it, so we'll set that aside. Now what I was telling you about when you go to stamp the back side, which is where your window is going to be, at that point you may want to go ahead and make you a couple little pencil dots so that you know where this will slide up at, because this is going to be evenly positioned here like so, and so this is going to be the window of opportunity that it'll slide up to probably about right here. So I know from this that I want. Okay, so in the midst of making the card, my camera quit recording, so I had already put everything together, colored it, and the whole 9 yards. So I decided what I would do is, instead of going back through and redoing this all, I would explain to you what I did in my coloring and how things are put together by another one that I stamped, and I'll put together with you so that you can see how it comes out. Okay, so the purpose of all the masking was to place, for example, and you'll do the same thing on the sheep, is you want to come in and you place your masking on to it. Then you'll take your little grass stamp and stamp around the area like so. Leaving the masking on, you'll go in with the Pear Pizzazz and you and your brush or your sponge or your dauber, whichever you're using, and you place the green where the little bunny would be sitting. Then using the Balmy Blue, I left the mask on and did the same thing. Then I took the mask off and colored it. Okay, so in coloring this one, I used the Flirty Flamingo, the light and dark within the ears. I used the light Smoky Slate, but I also used a lighter color that I use out of my Copic because I wanted a little bit lighter gray, and if I'd gone with my dark and light gray together, it would have been a little bit darker bunny than I wanted. So I used a number 1 cool gray, which is the C1 in the Copic. But it's really your choice on how you do your bunny and what color you want it to kind of come out. And after I finished coloring that, I colored the nose and the feet, again using the Flirty Flamingo. Then I stamped the little bee, and I used the, let me pull out my yellows that I used. I used actually one of my markers, which is the So Saffron, and colored the yellow spots in it. Then I came back with all of it with the Wink Costello, of course, you know, yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do. Then when you open it up for the inside of it, to color this portion of it, I used again just our smoky slate in these light areas, real light, and that's where I left it. I didn't come back with any other shading other than just to give it a little bit of a dimension with the little bit of shading I did. I used the Flirty Flamingo. Then I used the light basic black for its hooves so you can still see some of the lines from the other. It was stamped with the Happy Easter in it. And then on the Sweet Friends, what I did with this was, a lot of people ask me, when do I use a marker and when do I use blends? Well, when I've got little spots like this that really doesn't need to have any blending done to it, I grab my markers. And so in this case, I use the Melon Mambo here. I use the So Saffron and the Granny Apple Green, and just kind of did some fun coloring in it. Okay, so now to put it together and how it works, let me bring out one that I had stamped before. Yes, using the Ladybug. I know, it's one of my favorites too. I just love this set. I wish they would put it into our permanent catalog, but I don't know. I'm just guessing that they probably won't. All right, so what we need to do is, let's go ahead and adhere our 2 layers that are in the front. And here's my glue. And then we'll glue our inside pieces. Now when I did this, I did it mainly just stamping and sponging and stuff so that it kept it simple and I could do it real quick. It's actually a card from my granddaughter's birthday, which was last week on the 16th, so I need to get this in the mail since it's behind that, and send her over some money for her birthday. All right, so we'll set that here. Now what we're going to work on, this is the part that's going to come out of the back here. So what I want to be able to do is put adhesive here. Now you could use your Snell, not your Snell, I'd use something stronger, but your tear and tape, or in my case, I just choose to use my liquid adhesive. I think it works real well on this card. Make sure before you place it on that it's the right side going up. It's going to come this way, and then you want to just line it up with this inside at the very bottom of it and make sure that it's straight in there. Okay, and actually if we can pull it down a little bit, I need to get it down as far as it goes because that is part of what goes where your little piece like this is. So I want to make sure that that was as even as I could get it. And so we'll make sure that dries real good there. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to adhere this to this back side here. When you do this, if you'll notice, I went ahead, because of the coloring, I cut another piece out, and I cut out the 1/4 inch using our 1.5 inch circle punch, so that now I can write her little greeting on the back of the card. Okay, so to put this back portion on, all we need to do is to come around this way, and we're just going on the outside edges of it. Again, make sure that whatever you want to show when that portion slides up is facing down appropriately and in the right direction. And then you want to bring this together, and then make sure that, and if I need to, I can always, looks like I'm slid over a little bit too much, but that's okay. I can either trim it or leave it. It looks good with the white accents around there like that. All right, so then the next and last thing that you want to do is we want to adhere this front piece here, okay? And where we adhere it is right along this, above that score line. And so again, I'm going to put a little ridge there of liquid adhesive, not enough that it will seep out, but enough that it will hold it on when I put this on. Again, we want to come in the right direction here and set it on there. And now we have our completed card. See how easy that is to put together? And I want to make sure that that has dried enough before I But see how it slides up? Really, really cute. And the greeting comes out along with the little ladybug. So I know my granddaughter is going to absolutely love it. And bringing back the Easter one, which the ones that will be cut from my class, I had planned on cutting this, but I may take a vote to find out what colors are, if people want to try and do the ladybug or whether they want to try and do their Easter card. Thank you for stopping by. Have a blessed day and happy creating.